Okay, so this video is going to be discussing the differences between the term atheist and agnostic. And for those of you that don't identify as either of these terms, you may think this seems like kind of a silly thing to discuss and it may just be semantics. But really, this is actually a very important thing because a lot of people absolutely hate the word atheist. And there's a real effort underway by Christians and other religious people to just completely obliterate the word atheist and say that it is not a valid term. And I'm going to be explaining in this video why it very much is a valid term and why those who try to discredit it are being silly. Before I do so, I wanted to talk about kind of what gave me the idea to do this video right now. I was reading an article recently, which I attached the link to below, and it was grouping 3 generalizations of atheists by, the, I guess you could say, degree of their secularism. And actually, it sounds bad, but it was pretty good. It was like the first group, I think, were called the non-religious, and they were basically, as the title suggests, just non-religious people who aren't direct atheists or agnostics, but they're just, they may even believe in a God, but they just don't go to church or, are not affiliated with a religion directly. And this is the overwhelming bulk of non-religious people. So, that was pretty good. The second group was agnostics, which is quite obvious, that just, is what it means. People identify by the term agnostic and maybe secular, but aren't overtly against a lot of religious positions. And the third was the one that irritated me a little, because they called them the non-believers, rather than calling them what they were, which was atheists or anti-theists. And then they, of course, went into a whole spiel about how, well, these are people that have the gall to oppose religious positions, which is really not a position in of itself, so they're non-believers, but they're not atheists. Well, here we go then, starting into this age-old atheist versus agnostic question, which I'm going to dispel right now. Okay, atheism is a lack of a form of theism. Theism, by definition, is what Christianity and Islam are, which is the belief in an absolute God, which is unknowable, all-powerful, and a God you can have a relationship with. Essentially, it is opposed to deism, which is the belief there's a potential for a God, but you could say that God could be any God, any religion's God, or any entity, So that's, what theism is and why atheism, of course, A means a lack of, and therefore a lack of theism. Now here's the most key part of this whole video. They say that atheists cannot identify as such because they say we do not know there is no God. And if that's what atheism meant, then they would be right. But atheism just means a lack of belief in a God, just like theism means belief in a God. Believers of a religion like Christianity or Islam cannot know there is a God, so therefore they have to believe just like we cannot know, so we do not choose to believe. That is the key word here, and that is why atheism is a valid term. Now, if I was a deist, that would maybe be a valid argument, but I've never met an atheist in my life, and I don't identify as such. I mean, now, of course, for those of you that have half a brain of common sense, you're listening to me right now and you're thinking, well, gosh, this is all just silly, semantics, talking about these different titles. What does it matter? A person's belief matters. Well, that's what I thought when I first became an atheist, and thought that, the actual positions I take matter more than what I called myself. But as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, it wasn't until I actually identified as the term atheist that people actually started giving me a lot of grief for my views. I had been very overtly anti-theistic and opposed to many areas of religion before that. I just had not chosen to call myself that specific title yet because I was just kind of looking to wait for the right time. And it's a good thing I did because I realized that was half the battle when I called myself the word atheist. And it was really quite ridiculous because, you can call yourself an atheist and have still 90% of the same philosophy as a Christian. I don't know if Friedrich Nietzsche actually once called himself an atheist, so obviously he was. But, he had more anti-Christian philosophies than 99% of atheists ever will. So it's kind of just a, silly debate, but it's one that you have to humor, kind of like when Christians say, well, in God we trust is on the money, therefore there's a God. Well, it's a stupid argument, but you still have to answer it and say that it was put there in the 1950s as a McCarthyist policy against communism. So, I mean, it may seem a little bit ridiculous to some, but that's why I'm covering it. So hopefully this was informative for Christians, atheists alike. And if you agree or disagree, feel free to say so in the comment section below. But just thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.